Hi, everyone, and welcome. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of the land. I'm coming to you from the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, and community. This week is NAIDOC Week, where we celebrate across Australia and recognise the history, culture, and achievements of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people, where we learn about First Nation cultures and histories, and about the oldest continuous living cultures on Earth. So I'd like to pay my respects to all our traditional owners of and their cultures, elders both past, present, and emerging. I'm Simone Dossiter. I'm the CEO of Insurtech Australia, and we're a member not-for-profit association with over 90 insurtech members and 40 corporate partners. And we've been building a world-leading insurtech and insurance innovation ecosystem since 2017. We connect, facilitate, foster, and promote insurtech and innovation within the insurance industry. At this event, we're partnering with the Open and Embedded Insurance Observatory to discuss the current hot topic of open and embedded insurance and what it means to the future of insurance. We have over 100 people registered to join us today. So welcome, everybody. In terms of the agenda, firstly, we'll hear from Yuri Poletto, the founder of the Open and Embedded Insurance Observatory, to share what they've been doing, a definition of open and embedded insurance, and some of the findings from their key research. We'll then hear from Emily Martin, the Assistant Secretary, Policy and Engagement Branch, Consumer Rights Division of the Treasury, about the strategic direction and objectives of the consumer data right in Australia, and as a key enabler of open banking and the future of open insurance in Australia. And then we have a panel with three of our leading insurtechs to hear about how they envisage the future of the insurance in Australia and across the globe. This will include Jason Wilby, co-founder and joint chief executive of Open, Angus McDonald, co-founder and CEO at Cover Genius, and Anu Bhav, the Global Alliances Head and Sales Director, Australia, New Zealand at eBioTech. So now we'll over to you, Yuri, who's the founder of Open Embedded Insurance Observatory, an advisor on insurance innovation with over 20 years experience in the insurance industry, going both within the insurance companies such as Generali and Aviva, and has collaborated with insurers, reinsurers, insurtechs, and research companies.
Thank you, Simone. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. So yeah, I founded the Open and Embedded Insurance Observatory last year in 2021. It's an organization that has 9 months of history. First of all, let's frame the scope. What is embedded insurance? There is not a commonly agreed definition of embedded insurance. We define embedded insurance as placing insurance products and services in the day-to-day flow of customers' lives and work. So not only personal line customers, but also business customers. By doing this creates contextual opportunities to provide protection, that is the ultimate utility of insurance. Those protections that customers and businesses need when they most need it. Frame the context and the scope. We have started the research activities of the observatory this year. We ran a 3-month research stream where we obtained several insights that we collected in a research document. One insight regards the markets where embedded insurance is done today. We have mapped 12 macro categories of channels, including traditional channels like travel, for example, or motor, automobility. But very interesting thing are the new channels where embedded insurance today is done, where insurance is embedded with non-insurance products and services. So all the world of the gig economy, all the world of the fintechs and neobanks, the world of utilities, the world of business services providers. This is one of the most interesting areas, particularly for business customers. And in terms of products, we have mapped over 20 categories of products, 2022. including traditional products like travel insurance, but also we are starting to see more complex products like business insurance, cyber insurance, life and health insurance that today are distributed, offered, and used in a full embedded way. If we can scroll down, please, the chart to, yeah, next one, please. Perfect. So we have this claim that is not particularly original, but we have adapted it to embedded insurance. Today, every company can be an insurtech company. What do we mean with that? We mean that thanks to the enablement of technology, every non-insurance company with a customer base today can offer insurance products and services to its customers. This is an example. This is an iconic use case of embedded insurance. It's Nimbla, a UK-based insurtech that offer through accounting softwares, and not only, offer to SMEs the possibility to insure their invoices. So every time an SME issues an invoice through an accounting software, for example, that SME can insure that specific invoice. So obviously this involves, this is offered in a completely embedded way in the context of the accounting software. So this is a really iconic example of embedded insurance. And this is why we say that every company can be an insurtech company, because until 5 years ago, who would have said that an accounting software could have been a channel to offer and to use insurance? Probably nobody. Let's frame now the market of embedded insurance. So if the global market size of insurance is worth between $5.5 and $6 trillion, with an estimated protection gap of 1.4. So if this is the market size of insurance, the global market size, today, $1.8 trillion fall already under the definition of embedded, that is a distribution through non-insurance channels. This includes bancassurance. Banks are not insurance organizations. Bank branches are not agencies or brokerages. So bancassurance, at least in our definition, fall under the definition of embedded insurance. Then there is affinity business, product protection business, travel insurance. So today, $1.8 trillion of the global market value of insurance are already embedded. Now, looking at the future, what's going on in the future? The relevant thing is that based on not only our estimations, at least $0.5 trillion of the protection gap can be reduced, and the people and businesses that today are not insured, rather insured, will be insured thanks to embedded insurance in the next 10 years. And up to 20% of the current insurance that are not distributed in embedded way will migrate into embedded in the next 10 years. So if today embedded insurance is worth $1.8 trillion, up to $1.2 trillion in the next 10 years probably will become embedded insurance. And of this, $0.5 trillion comes from people and businesses that today are not insured. And this is obviously a very important point, because we know that under-insurance is a big issue for our societies. Getting people and businesses insured is good, obviously, for insurance companies, but particularly it's good for our society, because we know that the more people and businesses are insured, the more they are resilient against risks. And today we have a wealth of new risks. And particularly businesses, to innovate, they needed to be protected. There are several researches that demonstrate that the more businesses are insured, the more they are open to innovate. And as innovation is the engine of growth, it goes by itself that the more businesses are insured, the better is for our overall society. And going down, please, to the next chart. What we do at Observatory, we do two core things. Research, we are building the largest and most accurate knowledge base on embedded insurance and open insurance. We do researches through interviews with the marketplace. We do market intelligence. So we're building the most solid and accurate knowledge base on embedded into open insurance. We give back the insights of the researchers to the members of the observatory through workshops. So we do advisory to the members of the observatory. And then the other thing that we are doing is proactively help the embedded insurance and open insurance markets to grow. How? By involving and communicating and explaining the potential of embedded insurance to those non-insurance organizations that can be distributors of embedded insurance. This is the big task that we feel we have as an observatory to enhance the growth of the embedded insurance market and to let embedded insurance exploit its full potential. Next one, please. Today, we have over 40 members in the observatory. Insurance are insurance companies like Generali, Admiral, Munich Re, all the most prominent embedded insurance insurtechs. We start having some distribution partners like Kangaroo in the US. Now we have, as a member, just a few days ago, they joined the first Italian bank. So we have a growing number of members, roughly between 5 and 10 new members every month. Next chart, please. Thank you. Overall, our members underwrite or transact to their platforms over in excess of $50 billion of GWP. They underwrite or transact to their platforms in excess of 40 billion embedded insurance policies, and they have in excess of 2.5 billion customers with embedded insurance products. Next chart, please. Thank you. We are publishing next week our report, Open Embedded Insurance Report, which contains a contribution also from Insurtech Australia. We have run our first plenary meeting 3 weeks ago in London, and now next week we're publishing this report. It will be placed in the landing page and free to download for everyone. Next chart, please. Yeah, Simone gently contributed to the report with an overview of the Australian open insurance and consumer data right, an overview on this new regulation. Next chart, please. Thank you. Then we included also an overview of the global open insurance initiatives around the world taken from a report of EY. And in the report, there is then a final part with a series of executive interviews. And here, if you can scroll down to the next chart, please. Jason from Open kindly provided us contributed to this with an executive interview and a use case from with their partner, Telstra. Next one, please. I think we are finished. Yeah, that's it for me. I am here for anything, and we'll remain connected until the end of the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yuri. And if anyone does have any questions, do pop them in the chat, and we'll come back to them. Make sure that Yuri is available to answer those. I think that was a really fascinating overview of embedded insurance, and particularly really interesting to hear about just that opportunity that we see in dollars in terms of closing that protection gap. So I think that's a really important message. So now we'll over to Emily Martin. Emily leads the Policy and Engagement branch in the Consumer Data Right Division of the Australian Treasury. She previously represented the Australian government on consumer affairs issues and has over 20 years experience working in public policy. And previously was the Senior Treasury Representative in Europe and the United Kingdom at the Australian High Commission in London. So delighted to have Emily here, and I'm sure lots of people have joined the session to really understand more about what the consumer data right is and where it's going in the future for open insurance. So I'll hand over to you now, Emily.
Thanks so much, Simone, and thank you for having me here this afternoon. It's a pleasure to be able to talk about the consumer data right. So what I might first do is state the obvious. We had an election in Australia and we have a new minister responsible for the consumer data right. That is the Assistant Treasurer and Minister for Financial Services, Stephen Jones. And so we're at that point where we've got a new government and we're engaging with them on the kind of future direction for the CDR. Some of you may be subscribers to the CDR newsletter. If you're not, don't worry, there's an opportunity to sign up. And we'll have seen the Minister's message included in our CDR newsletter last week. And what you will have gleaned from that is that he is a great supporter of the CDR and is keen for us to go forward with our work plan. That said, we're still briefing the new government on the exact details and timeframes around all of that. So what I can talk about is, you know, the strategic direction as we're advising the new government on that. So what is the Consumer Data Right? Well, it's an economy-wide program that aims to empower consumers to request data about themselves be securely shared with an accredited third party. The Consumer Data Right was born from a number of Australian inquiries dating back to 2014 that recommended that consumers should have more control, rights and access to their data, and that this increased access would drive benefits for consumers. So consumer benefit is at the heart of the CDR today. It's intended to be for the consumer, about the consumer, and should be seen from the consumer's perspective. A couple of those reports that led to the CDR on the screen here, the Australian Productivity Commission's report from 2017 and the review into open banking from the same year. So currently the Consumer Data Right in Australia covers most of the banking sector, but we're also rolling out across the economy. And that's probably where we differ from other economies around the world, in that we're aiming to have a whole of economy consumer data right. So we're extending into energy in November of this year, and we've designated the telecommunications sector with the exact kind of details of that implementation to come. But we've been recently consulting on the rules that will apply to that sector. So next, I was just going to talk about a strategic assessment that the Treasury led in 2021. We had a rapid strategic assessment following the implementation of open banking, really looking at what sectors and data sets across the economy should inform the next stage of the CDR's rollout. And so, as you can see from the slide, we held roundtables, we had submissions, we had bilateral meetings, and we also undertook a lot of international engagement. The report was released earlier this year and is available on our website. And what that report found, just on the next slide, was that the clear priority for advancing the CDR in terms of expanding into other data sets is open finance. And when we talk about open finance, we're talking about the subsectors of non-bank lending, targeted data from general insurance, targeted data from superannuation, and merchant acquiring service providers. And really what this assessment looked at was how data sets could complement those that already exist in the system, so in open banking. And those of you familiar with the recent developments in CDR will know that we've been undertaking a sector assessment for the first subsector of open finance, and that is non-bank lending. We've had that consultation completed ahead of the election, and we're currently just developing our report on designation of that sector. So I've mentioned a few times designation and new sectors, and I'm sure you're interested what that means for general insurance. So on the next slide, we just set out how I might have missed one there. Joy, was there one before that? Yep. Oh, no. Okay, that's okay. I'll just talk to how we actually undertake what I mean by sector assessment and designation. So when we're looking at extending out to a new sector, we undertake a sectoral assessment process, which is a formal consultation process. We look at the data sets that we want to bring in. We look at the data holders that we want to bring in. We do regulatory impact assessment. And it's a very broad consultation. It's open, it's public. And then we prepare a sector assessment report for the minister. And it's actually the minister that has the power to designate new sectors and to make the rules. So we move on to designation, then we move on to rule making, and the rules are made by the Treasury and are made in conjunction with standards, the technical standards to allow data sharing, which are run by the data standards body, which sits under the Treasury. Usually the whole sector assessment, ministerial designation, rulemaking type process takes around 1 year. And once the rules are made, data sharing usually we like to allow time for industry to adapt to those rules and build. There we are. Excellent. I probably went in the wrong order, Joy. Sorry. So that's usually staged over 1 to 2 years. So we might just go back to the previous slide as well. Yeah. So as I mentioned before, we have already undertaken our consultation on non-bank lending, which was in the first half of this year. The next stage is to undertake formal consultation on those next subsectors that make up open finance, including general insurance, merchant acquiring services and superannuation. That exact timing is still being worked out with the government. And so then following that consultation, we will develop and finalise assessment reports and designation for those sectors. The final thing I just wanted to mention, just on the next slide, is also the future directions inquiry on into CDR, because one of the most important recommendations out of this report was around action initiation. So what we're doing at the moment is preparing advice for the government on how we might amend the primary legislation to allow for action initiation in the CDR. So in essence, action initiation will allow consumers to engage a third party to undertake actions on their behalf, such as payments. It would enable, individuals to initiate payments from a centralised platform, automate the processes to update new details, say like when they were moving home, includes opening and closing accounts for essential services, and a whole range of different functionality could be brought into the CDR. And those of you who know the kind of differences between the Australian system and other overseas systems, at the moment we have what is commonly called read access here in Australia, and this would bring in that write access, and it's something that really should drive a lot of uptake and a lot of different use cases for the benefit of consumers in Australia. So that is another piece of work that we're focused on advising the new government on. And just finally, I did mention before the CDR newsletter. If you would like to sign up, just on the next slide, you can see how to do that there. And the other opportunity we have for people is to also request an invitation to the CDR Framework Design and Strategy Forum, which we hold if you're really interested in the kind of expansion and deepening of functionality of the CDR going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. We just have one question, which I think you'll be able to answer fairly quickly, which is, do you expect the regulations outlining the use, storing and managing of user data will generally follow the rules applied to financial services?
So what we try to do is have a common rules framework for all sectors, but then there is sometimes sector specific rules that we need to bring in because of the differences that exist, with data holders and data sets. So we do expect the common framework and those things around, consent and the safeguards and all of that to apply, but there could be some differences that are needed because of sector-specific issues.
Great, thank you. And thank you for really explaining all of that. There was a lot in a short period of time, but I think you really did a great job in exploring where we're at and where the opportunity is. So we might switch over now and introduce our insurtech founders and leaders. So really delighted to have a great group of leaders here today, and I'm sure that's why a lot of you have joined the session as well. So we have Jason Wilby, the co-founder of Open Insurance, a truly digital insurance company that launched in Australia in 2016. It offers direct white label and embedded car, home and travel products that save customers time, hassle and money. And it's been growing rapidly in Australia through major partnerships with telcos, health insurers and finance companies. Secondly, we have Angus McDonald, who's the co-founder and CEO of CoverGenius, the insurtech for embedded insurance. It protects the global customers of the world's leading digital companies, including Booking Holdings and Intuit. Xcover is also available at Amazon, eBay and Shopee. And with more than a decade of experience in a variety of executive roles, Angus oversees the growth and development of strategic partnerships for CoverGenius across a variety of industries. And then finally, we have Anubhav Sharma, who started his career selling market-linked life insurance policies a decade back, and is currently heading the alliances for eBioTech and InsureMO, which is a central part of InsureMO's massive ecosystem with over 200 partners across 35 countries. And they're building a marketplace of applications powered by this platform to deliver embedded products in a number of jurisdictions. So I'm going to we'll just open it up to all our panelists, and I'm going to kick off with you, Jason. I'm not sure if hopefully we can see everybody. So Jason, you've called your company Open, which is kind of the whole reason we're here. Why did you choose that name then? What do you see as this opportunity for open insurance? And does it align with what Yuri and Emily described earlier?
Great question. I think we've made some decisions over the past 6 years that haven't always proven to be good ones, but I think back in 2015, choosing to call ourselves Open seems like one of the good ones. I think if I cast my mind back then, there are probably a few reasons why we chose that. I mean, it was sort of 2015, Emily touched on probably 2013, 14, where the whole kind of concept and discussions around who owns data and what do data rights look like was starting to become, I guess, a little bit more mainstream. Back then also, there was a lot of focus on decentralized business models. There was a bit of a hype, peer-to-peer everything. I think we got caught up in that at one stage. We were going to be peer-to-peer insurance. But I think also, for Jonathan, my co-founder, and I guess just a really sort of strong, open is a very powerful word. It's a word that's useful when we talk about our culture and thinking about building transparent business. But also really powerful in terms of guiding our decisions about technology and how we do business and how we do insurance. So fast forward to today, I think most of those trends have snowballed. We're building an insurance company that is open by design. All of our, we're car, home, travel insurance. All of our distribution all of our sort of sales is through partnerships, embedded partnerships like Medibank, Telstra, Polestar, Bupa. We've just gone live in New Zealand with another telco. And so I think a lot of the themes that we sort of talked, that have been touched upon by Yuri and Emily, I think, very accurately describe our business model, which is one of grounded in being open to sharing data and to using data and technology. Ultimately to deliver the best insurance experience, the best price, and doing it all at scale to benefit the customer. So I think that's I probably answered two questions there. I think I think we're very much anchored in this space of open. I think it's a really exciting time. The CDR feels like it's just starting to kind of wake up to this enormous opportunity that exists within GI as well. And I think it's a really hot space to be in right now.
Yeah, thank you. Such an open answer to all of that. I'll go over to you, Angus. Cover Genius is recognised as one of the global and really early leaders in embedded insurance. If you can outline your business paradigm around this open insurance and what do you see the growth and channels that it enables?
Yeah, thanks, Simone. Yeah, look, I mean, we started Cover Genius back in 2014 before insurtech was a word, and certainly before embedded insurance was a word. But, you know, it actually stemmed from trying to run an e-commerce company and travel, online travel companies, and trying to find an insurance platform that would help us distribute insurance. And that was really the early days. We felt there were no API-driven platforms. The technology from traditional insurers was particularly weak. And that's what we set out to solve. So, you know, to your point, Simone, absolutely, it was a global issue, because certainly in online travel, as you can imagine, you have people coming to your digital platforms from all around the world, and so you're trying to solve both a regulatory issue around the global piece, but also work out a solution so that everyone gets a fit for purpose product, and that's what we initially went out to solve. What it all stems from, though, what we learned out of all of this, is that it all comes down to what a customer wants at the end of the day. It is really, is a customer willing to buy the insurance product or protection product more broadly, off the basis of sharing some data perhaps, but also it's generally a convenience factor. They know the product's fit for purpose. They know it's delivered in a way that they understand, that they can see what they're buying, and that it's connected with a brand, household brand that they've always worked with before, and they feel comfortable in that environment. And I would say it's less about insurance companies or, you know, even the big digital platforms driving this shift. It's actually the customer saying, yeah, I want to buy these kind of products.
Yeah, so it's really embedded being about that, enabling that better customer experience. Yeah. So, and over to you, Anna above. Observatory is an established tech player, and you've really now built this insurance MO middleware offering. Can you explain a bit more about what that's about and how you've come to be in this embedded space?
Yeah, thanks, Simone. So while embedded is sort of the flavor of the year, and it's like blockchain was 2 years back, there's a lot of discussion about embedded right now, but embedded has been there since forever, isn't it, for travel, for motor. But about 5 to 6 years back, EBAW, which was at that point in time about 150 insurers using our policy admin and code platforms. At that time, we saw a basic difference between how the front-end platforms or the sales platforms are moving at a rapid pace, absolutely at a speed of light, right? What Amazon was doing, or what Alibaba was doing, Lazada, Flipkart, all these giant e-commerce players or new automobile firms which are selling digitally. And then there is insurers, which had legacy tech and which couldn't be moving as fast as their partners or their intended partners were moving, right? So just to cover this gap, we launched a platform called insuremo. This was way before, you know, there was a massive volume in the embedded market. So about 5 years back, we launched this platform, and this was to cover basically for three things. When insurers sort of trust in a platform like insuremo to launch embedded products with their partners, with channels, they look for three things mainly. So the first one being, if you are to sell embedded products in a customer journey with various partners, let's say travel, or let's say even metro tickets or your life planners. I mean, there could be thousands of use cases, right? When you do this, you need a capability to create products quickly. So first thing is of insuremo is it was able to cater for a lot of velocity for launching new products. So products which an insurance legacy platform would be needing about 6 months to launch, insurers could just, log into insuremo and launch a product within, let's say, a week. So our first customer actually signed up with us and launched products to be sold through e-commerce platforms in 2 weeks. So that's the kind of speed we are talking about, velocity. The second V, which insuremo is sort of defined by, is the absolute volume that it is able to cater. So we're not really a new player. We've been there, the cloud native, for a long time now. So this particular platform, it started as a startup like 5 years back, but today last year we wrote about $20 billion of revenue globally across 35 countries, which also means that the massive volumes that we've already catered to are sort of tested for on different cloud platforms. So absolutely tested for scale. So on one of the days in embedded insurance, and this is really going back to Yuri's point on how the volumes are expanding, right? So 85 million policies sold in one day on one of the interesting days of Insuramos platform. The third V. So velocity, volumes, and the third V is variance, which is what Insuramos sort of popular for. What we have to offer to insurers globally is Insuramo has 3,000 ready products on the platform. So if you're looking to launch a new product to the market, be it life, health, or general, looking to embed any customer journey, I mean, what is embedded insurance, right? It's a piece of software which you can embed into any customer journey, right? So we've already got 3,000 products ready on the platform and thousands of APIs from us and many APIs from our partners to cater for KYC. So you could build an entire customer journey of insurance embedded into any online product through our platform.
Great, thank you. I'm going to go back to Jason, and really, given your kind of open journey, what did you think about really this sort of extension of CDR into open finance and open insurance? What do you think are the opportunities there for a better customer experience, I guess?
Sure, I think I think it's quite easy to get excited about it. I think in the context of insurance, if CDR is by definition it's access to giving customers access to their data, and if you think about insurance, an insurance company will collect an incredible amount of data from a customer over the lifetime of a customer relationship. So if you think about like the space that we're in, car, home, travel products, generally they're long sort of relationships, often over many years. And customers will quote, they'll re-quote, they'll be sharing all of the assets that they own, different cars, the contents in their homes, of course, their claims history. It's an incredible amount of information. And if you just take one of the big products in Australia, I guess Australians probably spend about 10 billion or so on home insurance this year. When a customer is thinking about shopping for that home insurance, and it's about $800 a policy in Australia. So it's a big ticket item on the household budget. And so you'd encourage people should shop around. When customers need to shop, they've got to remember all of that information, all of the things that they've shared previously and they've been sharing with their current insurer for quite some time. And as an industry, what we do is we say, well, actually, not only have you got to remember it, but we want you to sit down and rekey it all into a web form. So, let's list out all of your assets again each time you want to shop and have and find out whether there's a better product or a better price for you out there in the market. And so, yeah, I think that creates, when you compare that against other industries, that creates an incredibly poor experience. Why can't I, connect my old policy to a new insurer, have that data shared, and be able to simply make sure that I've got a great product that meets my needs, and at a price that's that creates value for me. I think that's a big experience lever for the industry to wrap its head around. But I think it's more than experience, though. I mean, I think it's actually, when you look at it, it's through the lens of the customer effort. I think there's a bit of a barrier to competition there, and I think we've seen, banking. We saw I think the government step in and make it easier to port bank accounts. We certainly saw it with telco. I think Australia led the world in that space. So I think this feels like, it's a right area for a little bit of gentle intervention to improve things for consumers. It's experience, but also I think that will drive better outcomes as well when it comes to value.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that, Jason, and particularly with the obligation then is the customer in terms of getting that data to actually get it right. And if they haven't got it right, then they could be not covered. So yeah, it really is in their interest to kind of to make it right. Angus, I saw you nodding there. Any reflections on that, or also if you want to talk to us a bit more about that sort of partnership between the insurtech and the carrier in this space?
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think Jason's spot on with the sharing of data. It does open a lot of interesting kind of opportunities for everyone. But when we think about an integration or a partnership with a distributor, usually a tech platform, and then an insurance carrier, we are first and foremost a technology player that's sitting there in between. Yes, we have licenses like MGAs and things like that to allow us to do what we need to do. But as the technology partner there, our real role is to be the experts in how do you embed insurance or protection products. And so we take a very collaborative approach to working with both the insurance providers, but mainly with the distributors, to work out how do you create that seamless customer experience so that the customer gets a real value for offering their data as part of the transaction. And what we see out of that is then really high attachment rates. And I would say it's very different to the eval tech model, which is very much like, hey, I've got hundreds of products or thousands or whatever, like that's kind of fine. Our view is you can create really cool custom integrations which leverage the platform's kind of data ecosystem in a way that allows that data to help with underwriting decision-making in the future and to create quite different products than what insurers have built in the past. I always think if an insurer is coming into embedded insurance thinking they're just going to shift out the same shitty products they've had for the last 25 years, that's not going to work. The customers are smarter than that. They know that these platforms have great data about what they're doing. They've already shared it once, as Jason's saying, they've already shared it once. They don't want to share it again. Leverage that data to be able to provide a targeted offer to that end consumer, and then they'll buy it and do it in a way that leverages the best parts of that digital platform that they're on. So that's kind of why I was nodding, Simone.
Yeah. So it's very much that sort of digital customer data led rather than that, very traditional insurance, which is that sort of more product led. Here's a product we want to sell you, rather than, the customer just wants to be protected and how they go from that. I might go back to you, Anob, really around, how do you respond to that? You've got a different, I guess, position in the market, and you're also kind of a global player who's now kind of expanding in Australia. What do you think are the opportunities around the embedded insurance market?
Yeah, a couple of things. Thanks, Simone. A couple of things. So firstly, as Angus mentioned, we are different in a way because for us, it's really about putting tech first. And, in terms of insurance, we've got business analysts who almost wear an actuarial hat with insurers in the last 22 years, right? So we know how the business models work, how the data models work. That is one. Secondly, in terms of our Australia market expansion, so we're not really a spring chicken over here. So we've been here for about 10 years now, working with about 7 different insurers across life, health, general. But that was more of the legacy bit that we worked on. What we've done in the past few years is that on the merit insurance front globally are some examples which we would like to introduce to Australia as well. I was actually relating this to some of the recent experiences I've had. Recently bought some furniture in Australia. Mine was delivered in three months. I shared that with my friend. His is still in delivery, and it's about 8 months now. Global supply chains are playing up, of course, but there could have been a warranty on that particular product, isn't it? That's one. Secondly, with all the floods this week, I had booked a brunch with my wife for the weekend, and I've had to cancel it. And I don't know if the SME owner or the restaurant owner would be compensated for it had they got a sort of cancellation for this particular week, where in a couple of days it has rained as much as it rains in London for the entire year. So are people getting compensated? Is there an embedded product for restaurant bookings? So these sort of things are areas which we want to address. The other thing is, Simone, what really brings us to be much more active in Australia is, kudos to Insurtech Australia, that I have seen a very thriving community in the last 6 to 8 months in Insurtech Australia. And there are a lot of brokers, new tech brokers, new channels planning to or trying to reinvent in some sort of business models, embedding their or partnering with insurers. But what we do think where InsurMO would help is you don't need to really every single time reinvent the wheel, build everything from the scratch when there is something which is already available on cloud at almost a zero capex to channels and brokers, a lot of startup ecosystem as well. And they could be launching product in a couple of days without really investing or going through 3 months project cycles or things like that, right? So that's where it really converges for Australia right now. Not to say there's a lot of innovation happening in the market right now, but we just want to be a part of that innovation, jump that bandwagon, and help as many or support as many insurtech partners as we can.
Yeah, certainly. I think we're seeing, that real speed. Everyone's really wanting to bring that speed to an industry that's not traditionally known for its speed. We have a couple of questions, so I might sort of just put them out to the audience. So one is, what is the insurtech team's view on privacy risks that may arise from increased data sharing in this sector? Does anyone want to have a thought on that? No.
I would go. I mean, I think privacy is something, in any data-rich business, you never stop thinking about privacy and managing that risk. I think I suspect the fact that we've been able to solve it in other industries, and I think the challenges are very similar, makes me feel very confident that there's nothing that we haven't. There's unlikely to be very many challenges in applying CDR and data sharing in the context of insurance that we haven't solved elsewhere in banking or finance or telco, for example.
Yeah, I think that's certainly what the Treasury is trying to do with applying the same rules and processes and having that very robust process around consent, and then that covers a lot of the risks and concerns that the traditional insurers, I'm sure, will put up and have been, I know, in each phase of the process around how do we make sure that this is a robust and secure process.
Simone, I would just add to that we have CDR specific privacy safeguards built into our system. And data is shared on the premise that it is a safe and secure way for consumers to share their data. At the moment, consumers share their data. They download PDFs and send them over the internet. They give passwords. Screen scraping is used. None of CDR is the safe alternative to all of those practices.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. Angus, did you have something you want to add?
No, I think that not really. I mean, the only additional thing I would say is, and it's separate to CDR, is that there is a lot of data that these digital platforms actually have, which has nothing to do with an individual's kind of personal address or anything about them. It could be that, in the banking environment, just what kind of product that they're interested in. And so the context you can get from data, which is not a privacy kind of data, is actually really powerful as well. And so there's opportunities to embed based on that data rather than necessarily the data that's about an individual.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess while we've got you, it'd be interesting just to understand of how your product and you're seeing it go from just being about, I guess, the customer side of it, but through the sales and distribution through the claims channel, and how is that integrated as well, which is probably a bit unique in the insurance process.
Yeah, so our platform's called Xcover. We built it to be able to integrate any product warranty or any insurance product through our API-driven platform. What we then worked out was actually the end customer experience is so crucial to having a really great embedded insurance experience that we needed to be able to handle the customer service and the claims side of it in the same way as you could actually sell it in a booking path or a shopping cart or whatever. So our claims platform is called Xclaim, which is part of Xcover. You can probably see the kind of product methodology there. And what it's all about is having an API that our partners can then integrate, so that, if you go into an app of, say, Wayfair is one of our partners, we were talking about furniture before, being able to make a claim on the sofa that you bought 3 years ago, and that you actually have a warranty product for. That's a wow moment for a customer. They don't have to go scrambling around, what's the model of the sofa I've got, what's the color, or what year did I actually get it in. They know that it's already captured in there, and the make a claim button triggers a claim, and it starts the whole process. And then the API can drive things back and forth. So creating that experience, not just when you go to sell a product, but also delivering the service and the claims experience, which is where the rubber hits the road with insurance, as we all know, we think is really important.
Yeah, it's the whole reason we're here, aren't we? It's the claim, it's the moment of truth for our product and our industry. Jason, you're coming to us from London, and Open's expanded from Australia into the UK, and the UK in some ways was a sort of leader in open banking. What are you seeing are the differences? What do you think we should be expecting in Australia to come?
Good question. I've only been back here for 6 months, so I don't know. I don't know if I can speak for the whole of the UK experience, but it does feel a bit different. I think the UK's ahead on infrastructure. I think Emily touched on this earlier, that in the UK you've got the ability, all the infrastructure exists to be able to write rather than just reading. In the context of open banking, for example. I think it's interesting. It's confusing slightly from a consumer perspective, because Australian banks actually have, I think, really, really strong digital customer experiences. And often the apps and things, they're incredible what you can do with a CBA or an ANZ app. But in the UK, you've got this, I think, this deep level of this deep investment in infrastructure in the back end now, which enables some really, really impressive use cases. A friend of mine recently bought a car. There's a movement to online car sales in the UK, and they bought a car online, and through open banking, their data was pulled from the bank into the online car buying experience, pre-filled insurance, did a whole bunch of other jobs, and they were paying cash. And 2 clicks later, the money had been taken out of their bank account, put into and it was all settled, and the whole car was done. They didn't have to log into their bank account at all to be able to do all of that. So there's some really incredible experiences that you can see here in the UK, some really good use cases. I think one thing that's, I think, always sort of Australia's advantage is being able to look, you've sort of seen what's happened in the UK though, and it was very much about open banking. And I think Australia's framing it around, CDR, open data. It's a much bigger story, and so whilst the infrastructure might not be there, it feels to me like we're probably a little bit ahead on perhaps some policy and some of the thinking about where we can really take this. And I think that was exciting to hear the update earlier from Emily about what's coming next, and it's much broader than banking, which is where I think the UK has been anchored.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that was why I was kind of really keen to get Emily and everybody here on the panel. We're just coming up to time, and I do want to kind of be respectful of people's time. There's a couple of questions that have come through, but they're quite technical ones. One's around the insurance of those who are accredited data recipients and whether there'll be enough, capacity for that. Given that cyber insurance itself is increasingly challenged. I'm not sure that we have the right panel to answer cyber insurance capacity questions, so that might be something that we cover in another session, unless anyone wants to jump in. And then also we've had a question around the impact of duty of disclosure and how that'll apply for CDR, but I think that might be also something that we'll get to in time for more details. So unless we have any kind of final parting comments for our panel, we've had a few requests for the pack, for the various packs to come through, and certainly what we'll do is share the links to the various newsletters, so the Open Embedded Insurance Observatory newsletter, so you can get their report when it comes through, and we'll see if we can also share the presentation as well as the CDR newsletter. And I'm sure you've already all subscribed the Insurtech Australia newsletter. But I really wanted to thank, and Joy, do we always pop our next events coming up, but I really want to thank all our panelists, Yuri, Emily, Jason, Angus, and Anubab. We have a number of events coming up if you're in Australia in person, some also hybrid events, and we have a number of member events as well to support our Insurtech members as they're growing from their being small founders to hopefully one day also being an open or a cover genius as well. Unless anyone else has any final kind of words of wisdom, I'll really just thank everybody for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at a future event or webinar.
Thanks, Simone. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Enjoy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.